Hello out there. I'm the oldest nerd, and today we are talking movies with Professor O, as we like to do. Hello, Professor. How are you doing this morning in chilly Oklahoma?
It is chilly in Oklahoma. I'm doing well. Yeah, I got an extra shirt under here. Yeah, that's but yeah, got my space heater on. It's gonna warm up tomorrow.
It's warmed up here already. We're in uh, I think the high 60s, so it's everything that we even remember about cold weather has gone away pretty quickly.
All
But
right.
but
Although
today we're
I'm always this falls in line with this movie. It should be cold in February, so it should be at least chilly.
Well, we talked about this during the Christmas time. Was that everybody's idea on how seasons are is based on whether you live in New England or not. And
That's
when we
true.
live when we live down here in subtropical wherever, I mean, people in Florida aren't wearing mufflers and scarves and gloves and big boots.
Right. They're just aware that there's fewer mosquitoes in February than there are in July. That's
Yes, yes.
it's the mosquito count that determines the season.
Yes, yes. I like that. Put that on my luggage. Let's talk today about AI, artificial intelligence. This is a movie that came out in 2001, but it was probably first thought about 20 years earlier. This was
Right.
kind of the last project by uh, the our what seems to be our favorite director, and
Stanley Kubrick. Yeah,
yes, and he wrote this with the idea, and then they wrote and rewrote this. But basically, the story that came out is that Haley Joel Osment plays a uh, prototype robot that can feel love for one person, and so he is sent to this family that is part of the company that built him, and to replace a uh, son that they have already that's dying of some kind of old movie disease, which doesn't have
right,
any symptoms, but and is incurable until they decide to cure it.
right.
And
Cryogenically frozen.
right,
Yeah.
cryogenically frozen, and they find a miraculous cure, and now the poor robot boy who loves his mother is kind of left out as kind of the stepson,
Right.
and due to problems where he almost kills his brother on a couple of occasions, they decide that he needs to be just left out in the woods somewhere, and then he
Right.
takes on a long journey and eventually. Uh, Finds himself, I think. Uh, as far
Right.
as this film goes, that's as close as I can describe it. But we'll talk about the merits of it in a moment or two. Shall we start with talking about the cast? I think that Haley Joel Osment is one of the best child actors out there because he can look so sad.
Yes. And coming from The Sixth Sense,
Yes,
where again, a role of pathos, of sadness coming from The
yes,
Sixth Sense, and then to this film, and it just perfectly cast. Yeah, just has those eyes and bright kid. The behind the scenes stuff that there are some documentaries you can find on YouTube, and we were talking before this show. They're kind of the soft PR type documentaries. It's an hour's worth of docs, which at least you get,
mhm,
but he really is a bright kid. Formed friendships with the cast, with really, and understood. Apparently, his father was in acting too, and so they would even, and here's 12 years old, but they'd be talking about, okay, what's the subtext of your character,
yeah. Well, it
in
was his
prepping.
idea apparently. It was his idea apparently to not blink. He said, "If I'm a robot, I don't have to blink, and so I won't blink." And I think there's only one shot in the film where he does accidentally blink, but
Wow.
otherwise, they show that. And it's a little thing that you might not notice, but it gives it more of a otherworldly look that you might not have otherwise. And that's a clever thing to come out of a
12-year old.
9-year-old, 12-year-old at the time.
Yeah, absolutely. That's amazing. He was talking about not blinking, but I didn't realize it was his idea. That is that,
Yeah.
yeah, a terrific idea.
And in fact, all of the androids were not supposed to blink, but it didn't exactly work, especially on a number of the extras. But still, interesting idea, and comes from the youngest member of the cast. So also, Jude Law is absolutely convincing in his role there. I thought, William Hurt, is a cookie cutter. Drops in, he becomes the I don't know, the person without feelings. That goes all the way back to The Accidental Tourist, in my opinion. William Hurt has played the same part. He just gives him a different name and gives him a different job, but he's still pretty much as detached as he ever is on any kind of, and it works here.
It works. He's detached, but it's the you gotta it's the most caring, kind, sort of aloof detachment where it really, I mean, he is a bad person, and he is
Yeah,
the amount of hubris he has as a Frankenstein like inventor that really doesn't ultimately does not care for his what he makes, truly care for what it, and
no,
talk about a narcissist, but he speaks so gently and so kindly that some of that stuff is masked until you think about what he's doing, who he is, and he's absolutely awful. He just is, yeah,
yeah. I,
and
I loved his reaction to one of his team saying, "Well, what happens when these robots outlive their parents that they love so much, and how do they make the parents love them back?"
right,
And he said, "Well, God created Adam to love him."
exactly. That's it.
And
That that
I'm thinking that's kind of a throwaway. Well, that didn't work either, so what do we care?
right. Yeah, that's exactly right. Oh, and so many, all his the people that follow him around, and they're all supposed to follow him around like that, and be in just to be in his presence is to
Yeah,
live, and it just Doctor Hobby. And it feels like that. Yeah, I kept thinking of that name. It feels like
it's an inside joke.
ah
Kubrick called all of his films hobby until he found a name for them.
I did not, I did not know that guy. Well, to me, it felt like something. Here he is, supposedly he's the matters of life and death for so many of the people that the mechas that he creates. It's life and death for them when they are cast aside. This effects on society, and he just treats it with all the seriousness of a hobby.
Yes,
It felt like at the end of the day, it's just an expensive rich man's hobby.
very much so. Now, some of the criticisms of and by the way, I believe there are over 100 people in the cast.
Wow.
Most of them, I mean, we can get who they are, but haven't heard of most of them.
I Me either.
But
The mother, the
but most
Henry,
of
the
them are
mother.
placeholders. Really, the only people that are significant are David and Joe the Gigolo
Right,
and Monica the mother
right,
and Professor Hobby, and
right,
everything else is extras and cameo appearances
right.
by putting
Even
Robin Williams
even
as Doctor No. It was kind of wasted because I mean, except for the fact that you could recognize his voice, what was the purpose of putting him in there? Wasn't He didn't do anything terribly funny. He didn't do anything terribly different than any other voice actor would do in something like that.
that's a good point. Yeah, that's a point. That's a yeah.
But I don't know that
And
they
there's some
had the
other.
idea to do what they did with Robin Williams. He actually recorded that before Spielberg was even affiliated with the picture. This was
Wow.
something that Kubrick had done somewhere in the 20 years before this film ever
Oh,
got to screen.
it sounds like
And
Kubrick
and I
went
think
back
that's
and
what the problem is. Much of the film, uh, well, let's say much of the criticism that I've seen for this film is that uh, you can tell what parts are written by Spielberg, you can tell which parts are written by Kubrick, except that it's wrong. Uh,
except that it's wrong. The
except that
end
it's wrong.
is Spielberg's.
Kubrick wrote the first and the end.
Ah,
and Spielberg did all the darkness in the between.
that's yeah.
And so what I'm thinking of, and what I've
That's
read
right.
about it, is that Kubrick was thinking that this would be a film that he had seen E.T. And
Right.
he had decided that what he was working on should be something like that, and somebody like Spielberg should direct it. And
Right.
so he's trying to write like Spielberg in the beginning and in the end. Spielberg, picking it up from Kubrick, who he admires,
Right.
says,
They were good
I'll write the
friends.
middle like Kubrick would. So the very dark stuff is written by Spielberg. The very sappy stuff is written by Kubrick. And both of them are out of their element doing it.
It's a good point. That's a good point. The
That's my first
the
problem with this. I'll tell you the next one later.
well, what's interesting is initially it received. You're right, a lot of criticism. It's there's a lot of reappraisal that's gone on. Ebert reappraised it in
Yeah.
2013, and I just sitting here, I wonder if we're getting closer to actual AI, is that causing some of the reappraisal? And most of the reappraisal is 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 not is not criticizing it. It's actually some of the reappraisal stuff is actually appraising it, valuing it more than it was when it first came out.
I think so.
And
I think that it was a fairly new concept. Obviously, with Kubrick, who always researches everything to the nines, and he's always 20 years ahead of everybody else. Before anybody knew what AI was, he was thinking about AI. But
right,
by the time this came out, what, in 2001,
right,
AI was still not quite certain in everybody's mind. I mean, now you say AI, everybody knows what you're talking about. Then
right.
they had to put in the artificial intelligence because the people at the studio first thought that the title would be misunderstood as being about A1 steak sauce instead of AI.
Right. Instead of
So
AI.
right, so that was kind of still a new concept then. So I think that yeah, when it came out, this whole idea that uh, whatever artificial intelligence went by before this didn't quite conform to what the film was talking about, and maybe now that we're all more paranoid about it, and maybe more on the robot side, it may give you a better look at that. Although,
Ah,
once
well
again,
put
I
on
have
the
other
road.
things to say about that, but we'll get to it.
Well, I will say A1 would have been a great product placement. You can just see that A1 on the dinner
Yes,
table and you pull back from it and it would just work.
yeah.
But in its own way. But yeah, the casting was very, and another in terms of production too. Um, I like I was saying that I wish they would make a real behind the scenes like what we watched in preparation for Blade Runner. It was like a
Yeah.
3 hour documentary,
Yeah.
and it was made 20 years after the fact, so that some memories are become more warm and they become warmer memories. But other memories, there are parts that were sharper and divisions that were deeper, which in some respects 20 years later I think you almost get a more accurate reflection of what really happened on that set, instead of trying to make something that's going to go on the DVD as it's released, a PR piece that's on the 20 years later. You can get some of the real recollections, and I would love that from this movie. I think that'd be interesting in the writing side, but it's just not there. But I did learn the effects are incredible. The
Yes,
Stan
and this
Winston
was something
Studios,
that Kubrick
yeah.
was talking. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. The Winston Studios were a big deal in this, and Kubrick put off doing this film for a long time because he did not think that the technology existed to make the special effects look like he wanted it to look.
Right.
And that's the best thing that you can say about this picture is that once again Kubrick's world building is
Yes.
apparent here, readily apparent, and it's very lush, and it's very detailed, and it's very possible.
Right.
And of course the cinematography is great. The you don't stop and think of how they do it, rather than just accept everything that you see.
Oh, well
And I
put.
think that they and that's Spielberg's touch and Winston's touch and just the state of the art with all of the special effects by the time that came out. And now, of
Apparently,
course, that's all old stuff. But at the time, it was very state of the art and still looks good.
it still looks good. It does. I think that one of the reasons it looks good is because so much of so much of it is actual. in front of the camera puppets,
Yes.
puppets of all sorts of designs. The teddy bear is so seamless. You know, you just
It is more complex than the T-Rex in Jurassic Park.
that
It
is
has
right.
30 different movements, and the hardest thing they had to do was to do it where it could sew. This was not done by little people in suits. This was actually done by an animatronic device,
Right.
and his ability to sew. The only thing that did not work was they wanted to um, correspond the mouth movements of all the mechs with the voice actors that were portraying them, and it never worked out right, and they did it manually eventually. But
Ah,
interestingly, Jerry Anderson did that in 1961 with Fireball XL5, and that was how
and,
those puppets worked. They worked mechanically to respond to the voice actor.
and it worked well. Wow, that's
Yes,
fantastic. And they had trouble with that 40 years later.
they couldn't make it work.
That is amazing.
Yes,
One little one oh, and so many. There's like at least 30 versions of the bear, of the teddy bear, and one of them, the walking, is a guy. He's got to walk like he's on skis. Of course, we never see him. He's kind of rotoscoped out. You know that
yeah,
they get rid of the person that's doing his movement, but it's like he's got rods that connect to the bear's legs, and makes the bear walk, and it works incredibly well. You don't even think about how it's done. It just works on
yeah,
so many levels. But speaking of mechanical, I think Kubrick had wanted he'd wanted David to actually be a mechanical device, a robot that was built for the part,
yeah,
and they just couldn't get he couldn't get looking good enough to be that kind of a David who we
yeah,
would all fall in love with, and would be just that perfect replacement for a son, for like this product being made for families that have lost a son or want a son or want a child. They're grieving, and so Spielberg, and so apparently, and then he thought maybe Spielberg could cast that kind of a child. And then the other thing that I'd heard too is that Kubrick spends a good while making the film, and he was worried that he starts off with a 10-year-old kid, and by the time he's finished shooting, the kid's 11 and a half, and you've got continuity problems as that
yeah,
same actor is actually aging.
yeah. And
And
there's
he used
always that problem
Spielberg.
with any kind of child actors. I mean, we've seen that in Stranger Things, where a year has gone by, and 6 years have gone by in the actors, and
Right.
where they started out as 11 years old, they're now like 35 and still riding bicycles. It's kind of hard.
I was, but riding bicycles and working on their master's degree, they've let
Haven't
them
got
go
out
to
of high
grad
school
school.
yet, but
Yeah. That's a perfect example. That's what Kubrick just couldn't. One of the things he couldn't get around, and it sounds
that
like
was
he
one thing
tried.
that I really loved about this film. It had what was it? Patricia Arquette. I think it was called About a Boy, and
Right.
they spent 12 years making the film with the intention of the children growing up,
Right.
and so as they had an older version of the son and daughter, they were the same actors.
Right. That's exactly. I think there's a feel like childhood is
Yeah,
the
yeah. They
this
started when they were like 8 years old, and they went they took them until they were like 20,
exactly.
and of course you see the aging in all the actors, and it's a only time I've ever seen anything like that done.
That is amazing. That
Yep,
is amazing. That's that could have easily been Kubrick making one film, but
it
he
could have
never
been.
took
Yeah.
12 years. But the we were talking about the effects too.
Yes.
The they're just absolutely seamless. The teddy bear is so good. The teddy bear is so good. In fact, when I was thinking about effects, I thought, oh yeah, the bear too. I thought, and another scene that just highlights some of these effects. Again, they're practical effects. Was in the what's it called, the flesh circus? Basically
Yeah,
the
Flesh Market. Yeah.
yeah, the flesh. Whoa, where it is kind of like a circus with
I thought about the Digital Circus. If you've ever seen the or listened to the Ruby radio dramas, they had what
oh
they called the Digital Circus, where they would gather androids together, and then they would work on them and enhance them and add parts to them and put them in contest with each other and things like that, and then gather information, move on to the next city. It was I have a feeling that that was borrowed.
That's interesting. It was a fascinating. That is, yeah. When this film takes, and you described the beginning, exactly, where the mother, yeah, they decide to take Dr. Hobby's idea, prototype idea, and all of a sudden, David's introduced to the family. It's interesting when she imprints David. That David is gets the imprinting and
Yeah.
falls in love with the mother. It really, one fault in the mechanism is it's such one directed love that the father, and he's not a great person. You can also tell their marriage was not in good shape even at the beginning. It's not a comfortable. It's
There was a
on
lot of
the
stress on it due to the dying child, and it was a who wanted to. He was the one that was trying to get her to come to terms with the fact that he wasn't going to get better,
right, exactly,
and that'll strain any marriage.
and you see the very beginning of that. That's exactly right. It's straining the marriage. They don't have much to talk about. So, but then the child comes in. She decides to activate it. She cares for it enough to activate it, and then so all of a sudden the father starts to feel excluded, and then of course when the son, it's going to happen. The son comes out of cryogenic that state. He's cured, sort of cured. We see him get better, and and obviously that's going to set up a horrible rivalry, and the son is not the actual son of the family. Has got all the traits of childhood cruelty, which would be, the kids can be cruel. Anybody can be cruel, and in his
Oh yeah,
situation, all of a sudden, I'm back, I'm healthy, but you've got this child toy that is imprinted to love. That would be another strain on the family.
yes,
And when the when and then of course, he Martin is the actual living son's the
right.
non-android. Martin's his name, and so he does things to start to exclude David, like just get these scissors and cut a lock of mom's hair in the middle of the night. She'll love it. And of course, it's
Or
as
just the
scary as
eating the
anything.
spinach. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, and then his friends are no help either, and so apparently when he goes into the pool, they're testing his some sort of defense mechanism that they know that David has, a survival type of mechanism,
yeah,
and to stay alive, he grabs Martin, but of course he pulls him down into the pool and won't let go, and of course Martin is drowning, and that scares the death out of the family, and that's when they decide to return David. The mother decides to return David, and
yeah,
but she can't. But of course, the idea is he's going to be destroyed back to at the
yeah.
robotics facility that
And
Dr.
and
Hobby
that's one of
runs.
my problems with this is that they've made the most advanced mech there ever has been, and yet you can give him instructions you can never take back.
That's a good point.
That's
That's a good
bull.
point.
They've already shown him Dr. Hobby pull the walnut out of the forehead of the woman and change her mind and stick it back in. I mean, that doesn't read to me. That sounds
That
like just we got to put in something to where she won't want to get rid of him. So let's say that we can't do that. Bull.
and that he's going to be destroyed. Yeah, that's a great point. That's a great point. And if they could just change people's, yeah, you're right, change people's consciousness and feelings out. Why can't they do this? And when you think about it as a product, and of course they're making more Davids. They've come up with which is a horrible scene later when David discovers that Dr. Hobby is actually making more copies. He thinks he's the only one. He's original, and you kind of
And
empathize
they're in
with
the
him because,
boxes. That's what gets me. They're in the boxes like in Toy Story.
right.
Prospector, you're out of your box.
That's right. And one of the boxes makes a noise, and so
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And but of course that's a nightmare. Just the kid is searching so hard for his individuality, not only just to be an individual treated as kindly as a mech, even as a mecha, but he wants to be an orga, which wants to be an organism,
Which
and
they attribute to
true.
the fact that he has a juvenile intellect and therefore believes in more than he's told. That is to say, um, I'm only going to live another 55 years. Oh no, you're going to live forever. That's how a
Right,
kid would do.
right, right.
And so on and so forth. So that's so far so good. My problem is that we told the whole story of the child, uh, his bonding, his separation in the front and in the back of the film. The whole middle was irrelevant. And
The part of
what I think is there are two films here. They could
mm,
have made a great film without Haley Joel Osment and just used Jude Law as Joe the Gigolo, and they could have made a complete interesting film with the same messages pretty much, uh, with him and with the Rouge City, and maybe he can go find his maker or whatever. Which did it have to be in the NBC building? I don't know why that did that, uh, but it seemed like there were two different stories being kind of smashed together that were similar but not really.
that's
And
an
and
interesting
and
point.
that was one of my big problems with this, is that and plus I was completely creeped out. I
Right.
mean, this is like Misery. Let's.
Yeah.
I was
Right.
waiting. I was waiting for him to, chain his mother to the bed and say, "You can't leave because I love you."
Deal with that. Well, that imprinting is very strong, and
Yeah,
and yet what I liked about it too, it kind of some of the and I will admit that I referred to this book yet again. Perfect name for Spielberg films, Darkness in the Bliss Out, because we
yeah,
think so many times of him as a bliss out, but like you mentioned, the darkness in the film is attributed can be attributed to Spielberg, which is kind of interesting. And it kind of you're right, you kind of end up with a bifurcated effect. But in that bifurcation, I did like I wasn't when I was thinking about Rouge City, I was thinking about you had said you could cut time from this, and Rouge City did not necessarily do a lot for me. It's interesting. One of the parts with Robin Williams and Doctor No uh, looks like Einstein, and they go and the kid
yeah.
or Wizard of Oz, and you're going to get your answers, and it is they have seven answers that they paid for. You got to be careful when you ask a question, but the kid finally
Basically,
gets
a
down.
Google search.
Exactly, basically,
And
Google.
I think that was the quality of the answers that they got too,
That's
because he
true.
really did not give complete answers to the questions, to the point of where, because it would have given away the ending to us.
And I will give you another point, Siskel. Ebert usually liked them, and
Yeah, he did. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
the,
You're definitely Ebert this time.
the, the and he gave it 3 out of 4 stars when he first came along, but he had some
Yeah,
criticism. But yeah, there was another just sheer logic point, like you said, then you're right about the imprinting. Can't you change it? Uh, they go to Doctor No, and apparently, um, William Hurt, Dr. Hobby, is trying to find David. Where's David? How can he not have a tracker? How did they not have, instead they follow him to Rouge City. They set up a ruse at Rouge City with Dr. No,
yeah.
it's all a trick to get David to go to Manhattan to the headquarters. And but then so if that could have been handled, so it's a logic problem. You're thinking, wait a minute, couldn't they
Well,
have
it
just
was
put a
before
tracking
they
chip?
actually, in real life, it's before they invented the Apple tags.
Yeah. Good point.
We would be able to track him in this century. So
Yeah.
the other thing that I have problems with is they wanted to say something about global warming, but they really didn't. They established that half the world was flooded, but then forgot about it, except when they got to New York and they have, the first, 12 stories of every building underwater. But other than that, they make little message out of that. They
out
just
of
kind of
that.
throw that in so they can show some of their underwater effects. And it seemed like a lot of this was just done for the special effects. Look at the effects on this. Look at the effects on that. Look at the world we've built. Look at the city here. Look at all the neon. Look at all of the people. Some were amputees that played the broken robots, which I thought was
That's right.
clever.
That
The robot junkyard that they were the scavengers were going through were actually castings of the robots that they were built and those that didn't fit and stuff. So it was actual garbage from the film.
from the
And
film.
yeah,
That's fascinating. One thing. Now that's a scene at Rouge City. Yeah, I was kind of it was intriguing. The designs were
yeah,
fascinating. All the connotations and all the designs, legs, everything. But what was it getting the flesh junkyard scene with the flesh
yeah,
circus
yeah,
was to me just it does say a lot about people and humanity and what we throw away and
sure.
our fears about AIs and it's funny in this film basically the AIs are not threats at all. Some of the fact is some of the lines said like Gigolo Joe's lines about they hate us. They made us too many. They made us too smart. They made and so they're fearful of us and yet and we made them basically to be slaves to serve in different functions.
But to outlive humanity essentially.
But the
and
and
that was part of their design, which is kind of interesting there. And in the last scene, by the way, where they show the aliens, they weren't supposed to be aliens; they were supposed to be mechs, but
yeah,
they had run out of their special effects budget, and they pulled some stuff from stock footage they didn't use from
Close Encounters.
Close Encounters. Yeah,
Yeah, they're
and
and
threw
it's
that in
funny
there.
that shape is very Close Encounter shape. And the funny thing is, when we first see David behind this kind of glass as he's coming to his mother,
Yeah.
before this kind of smoke glass, then he looks like that. Then the door opens and
Yes.
it's David, but looks like that very thin, strange
Yeah.
alien. And so yeah, that was an interesting, yeah, that the mechs yeah, the mechs then the mechs are the super mechs are trying to find what was humanity. They're
Yeah.
excavating, 2000 years later, who are these people? And of course they find a gold mine in David and the bear who's holding the locks of hair. And that's another interesting thing too. I'll go with you on another logic thing too is why would she live only 24 hours or actually more like 12 hours after they restore the mother? That's just kind of one of those
Yeah.
adding to the pain
That's
type of
because the
type.
script said so.
That's
That's
because of scripts.
basically the only way you can justify his imprinting on one person and never being able to reverse it, and the mother living only one more day is all what they used to call script armor.
We will get to that scene. We will get, but I did love this circus scene. I thought it says so much.
I did
One
too.
critic
That
said
was the
that
part of the movie I would keep. I would say cut an hour out of the picture, everything that Haley Joel Osment was in. Despite the fact that I liked his acting on that, I thought the more interesting part was all the rest of the robots. What kind of society have they developed when people don't want them anymore? And I think that would have made a much more interesting picture. But they were trying to do that and this
and this.
imprinting thing, and I thought, that they're just playing in the mud right here.
Oh, but I tell you what, the film becomes such a horror film, that the head that comes off, and apparently they really did eject that body, out of a cannon. And that was done all as practically as they could in the circus. They
Yeah,
had the robot body in the cannon. It goes up on a cable out of the cannon. Of course, we don't see the cable. It's erased from the film, but the body flies out. Then and so please adjust that where my head goes above the fan, if you would. But no, it does not go above the fan. The body goes in the fan, and that head just thunk, right
yeah,
there. I mean, that was unbelievably horrific.
yes,
And then the little girl, then the you got the guy, the TV director, and the little girl. His little girl actually sees a little boy. And one critic said that it felt like Spielberg was kind of expressing an unfriendly view toward working class. Like basically, it's kind of like the crowd at this event is kind of like a UFC event or a big, I was thinking
Yeah,
of,
NASCAR. Yeah.
when, well, yeah, or yeah, race, or basically, what are they, back in the day? I used to love to watch them on TV when you get the old cars and they smash each other. You'd run
Oh
into
yeah, Demolition Derby.
demolition. It's what it looks like. Basically it's a robot, yeah, demolition. And so we're
Yeah.
watching that. But the funny thing was, for this one thing, the author in this book, James Kendrick, points out that Spielberg a lot of times will use a lot of working class characters in a lot of his films, and without looking down upon them at all. It's just it's like America, it's humanity. And what's interesting to me, another thing where I thought this, and he feels this critic kind of missed the boat too, in feeling that Spielberg is making some sort of elitist comment that the mass of America is kind of has this raw meanness. But in kind of contradicting that, I think it's fascinating that when Johnson, he's the ringmaster of this
Yes.
circus, played by, is it Brendan Gleeson? Who is
Yes.
it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He purchases, he buys David. He takes David and Gigolo Joe, because David won't let Gigolo Joe go, and they go to the circus, and he wants the crowd to just basically viscerally destroy David, because here's a mecha, they're making him look just like us. But he's so much like a kid, the crowd instead turns on Johnson, and
They do, because he says he's pleading for his life, and someone in the crowd says, "No mech does that."
no mech does that. And it was fascinating, and the crowd supported David. Of course, when and as a viewer, you're going, they should support David. Yeah, you feel a little better about those people,
Yeah.
about people in general when they do that.
Well,
But yeah,
the way I saw it was that the people who could own these mechs would be basically very rich people, and it
exactly.
left a lot of the middle and lower class people just to kind of watch them in circus kind of things. Maybe the only time they
And
ever
their
even see
jobs are
them.
gone.
Yeah.
It's kind of one of those Roman circuses where, how are we going to placate the populace? Give them games. It kind of has that feel to it.
Yes.
And yeah, that's a good point. So
That's
yeah,
why I thought
I
that
thought,
part of the film was so compelling. I liked that whole idea where you have this community of mechs, you have the people who couldn't have them but are fascinated by them. You have the hucksters who are trying to make money off of them, and okay, I'll take Robin Williams too.
that because you got to put Rouge City along with, they're kind of clumped together in that middle part of the film. That's yeah, with Rob. But oh man, this the other, you're right. That was fascinating too, is you individually look at those mechs, and they're fascinating. Even the designs. One guy has this old, like a cathode ray tube image of
Yes.
his face, and as he's a mech. There's another one that's also kind of holding his own head. That just fascinating.
Yes.
And the mechs say, "Would please remove my," they're helping each other out.
My pain sensors. Yeah.
Yeah, remove my pain center before they before they eject me from the cannon into a fan. Yeah, that's it's just it's and the woman, tender woman, I think she must have been a nanny or something, a nanny
Yes.
bot. And yeah, that film, that would be, I'm with you, that would be a good film too. I would be interested in Gigolo
Someone
Joe's
pointed out, by
Adventures.
the way that they did away with the nanny was that they poured a bucket of acid on her.
Acid on
But
her.
how
Yeah.
did it not eat through the bucket?
Dead gummit, you and your logic. That's that's a good point. That's four logical fallacies.
You can do that in a Kubrick film.
Yeah, that's no, you don't. But all that darkness is fascinating, and tells us about us. You don't feel great about being a human being.
Yeah.
You feel much more. And when Gigolo Joe talks about the mechs, and the mechas, and how they feel about people, and it's also expressive of how people feel about other people.
I
Anybody
love
who,
how he played the part, though. I love how he played the part.
oh yeah,
He was cocksure. He was going to
oh
turn that Blue Angel pink because he knew how to do it,
he,
and his whole body language, all of this, the the kind of robot slang that they have. You know, hello
Right.
Joe. What do you
Oh,
know? You know, hello Jane. How are
yeah.
things or something like that they did, and I liked all that part. It was just the part where they had David, and he creeped me out, possibly for
David.
not blinking, but just being like this. um I don't know, this, you know, there are certain dogs that will only respond to one person.
Right. Right. It's kind of
and
like,
and
yeah.
and everybody else feels kind of left out on this, and I felt for the people who were left out. I felt for Henry, and to a certain extent for the brother.
Yeah.
And it was just, it just creeped me out, and I thought, you
Yeah.
know,
No,
I don't even want to think about this. I You know, but they could have made all their points that they seem to be wanting to make, uh making the center on Gigolo Joe.
I think the David part in that movie is absolutely meant to creep us out. I think
Oh yeah,
it's so
worked.
much love. Yeah, it worked. So that because when you think about it, he becomes increasingly more violent, David does, as the film goes along. So that when he destroys the copy of himself, in a sense, that's murder. I mean, yes, he didn't expect to find himself. It would be
Yeah,
unbelievably uncanny. It's not fair that there's another David. And by that point, he has done exactly what Dr. Hobby has wanted to do, become so unique, go on a quest, desire. Mechas don't have this kind of thing. But the cost of that is he becomes violent, and it's
yeah.
understandable. But yeah, he creeps you out, and it gets progressively it
It
increases
comes
as the
close to
film
being
goes.
a snuff film, and this is the other, overtone that goes all of through this, which we have seen, of course, in Kubrick's films before. This kind of,
Uh,
undercurrent of sex, until they
right,
got to Eyes Wide Shut, which I don't think it was about anything else, and
right.
maybe that should have been his ultimate film.
But no, that's a great point. You got because yeah, the feeling of you can feel a Clockwork Orange with some of
Yes,
the sexual, it just sprinkled through this, not just sprinkled through this film, but I mean, even
it
in the
was pounded
drawing.
at you. I mean,
Yeah,
A Clockwork Orange was a brilliant film, but could you watch it twice?
uh,
I mean,
no,
it is so incredibly violent. And while Malcolm McDowell does a tremendous job of being the happy, joyful as fact, murderer and
right,
torturer, and
right, right.
everything that you can think about bad in a person, he was able to do, and then make you like him. But you know, at the same time, it was so incredibly violent, and so incredibly, um, unembarrassed by it all, that you know, it was good to see it once, but I never want to see it again. That's one of those kind of
No, because
films.
it's so leaned in that direction that you described, that the ultimate violence in the film is when society takes that violence away from him. And then you
Yeah,
realize, wow, no, he should be. I mean, you don't want to meet anybody like that. But what did we do in removing that from him? And yeah, there's a that's yeah, and so that's a good point about this film when watching it twice. I think I can watch it again. Maybe that's another reason that it takes 10, 15 years on the reappraisal for this film. And it kind of and that maybe that and AI is kind of the other
maybe
why it's
so.
taken a while to go back and watch this film. The what we were talking about David and the in the uncanny, there's a lot, well, there's a lot of Freudian stuff in here. Oh my
Of
goodness.
course.
I mean, yeah, the classic Oedipus, think of the story of Oedipus, killed his father, married his mother, and you can just see, Henry gets shut out.
Well, at
Henry is
the end,
not,
they did that. I mean,
yeah,
essentially, his memory in the, book it was based on, I understand, when they come back, there is only a hole where the brother's room was, or it was a
oh,
sister
that's
in the book.
right.
And yeah, and it's interesting. The only person in it is his mother. That's the only one that he wants. That's the, only, part of his world that he found important.
That's right. I heard about that. Yeah, yeah, and again, I wonder if I haven't read the book. Sounds fascinating. I'm guessing he probably does become progressively more violent. I think you empathize, even though he's creepy. I think you do empathize with him more because you also see how bad humanity can be, and
Yeah.
his best friend is Gigolo Joe, who and that bonding attaches you more to the creepy kid, David, even though
Yes.
lovable but creepy, but
But
that
his
kind of
reason for being
humanizes
with
him.
Gigolo Joe was purely transactional.
That's a right. Right. I think Gigolo Joe liked him and kind of
Yes.
recognized that he was a mech that's very unique. Mecca, I should say, that's very unique. But it was also very transactional. Gigolo Joe was just trying to get that job done. I'll take you Blue Ferry. I know where a Blue Ferry is. And that's
Well, I
interesting.
was thinking more on David's part.
Ah,
He would throw Gigolo Joe into the alligator pit
if it
after
got a,
he got what he wanted, and
you
I mean
are
he was ready to say goodbye, Joe, no matter what. When Joe was saying, this is not a good idea, you shouldn't do it, and he says, well, goodbye.
right.
And Joe actually had more of a conscience than David did.
That's a good point. David was so one single had that one
Minded,
single-minded that yeah, he would have thrown yeah, just to do whatever it takes. It's interesting he saved Joe's life in a way when he pulled him away
but
from the
not on
cave,
purpose.
but not on purpose. Was that could have been that defense mechanism kicking in?
Maybe.
That yeah, yeah. You don't see enough of that in the film. It's more like I've read about that. You watch it the first time, you're thinking, wait a minute, he's just kind of holding on to his brother. But apparently they were testing. They were also the cruel kids were also, how do you pee? And then the next thing you know, they're wanting to push him in,
Well,
and
they
or
poked him with a knife. I think it didn't. He said, "I
that was
won't
enough.
cut you, but I want to poke you with a knife, see if you feel this." And
Yeah,
he took it as an attack.
which makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, kids could, yeah, there were, but oh God, and you're right about one scene that got me is, and I was going to wear this. This is kind of when we're talking about, I was going to wear this, but it affects it when I put this on. It did what happened was, and the iris in the computer camera wanted to brighten up, and so
Yes.
I thought, man, I looked at like that creepy shot of just those eyes. I was
Yeah.
that, I was too bright. So, but this got
It
me.
doesn't matter
You
for
got
me, but it doesn't matter for me because I'm already pale.
well, me too. But the lighting is I'm battling that. But
Yeah.
this scene reminded me, of course, the classic scene is this is taken from Amblin Entertainment, of course, and
Right.
it's Elliot riding the bike with ET in it. But so that's what I'm really harkening back to. Elliot with the bike over the
Yeah.
moon. When that moon balloon comes up, it looks like that.
Yes. Yes.
Completely and I'm thinking, what is Spielberg saying here? I love it. I love that moon balloon. It's awesome. But what is that? It really does to me connect to that image of Amblin
It does.
Entertainment.
It hits me as an anachronism. They
Right.
have a hot air balloon with
Yes.
jets to control its attitude,
Yes.
but other than that, what do they need with a balloon if they're trying to catch uh, uh,
That's the
robots
fifth
with? Yeah.
logical thing. That's what are they doing to the hot air balloon?
But
It just serves its purpose
it's
visually.
like they
Yeah,
did with the rest of the film. They wanted something to look good, and then they wrote a story around it, and that's what bothers me about this. If
yeah.
it's just a special effect film, you could do all those scenes, but a completely different story on it, it still would have worked pretty much the same way.
But man, it adds a layer of threat, a retrofitting rare layer of threat onto that Amblin symbol. It just
Oh,
like
sure.
whoa, and maybe that's and of course Spielberg at this point in his career he could do anything he wanted at this point in his career. He's coming off 1998 and the what was the name of the World War II film? Oh, it's so good.
1941.
No,
No,
no.
no, you're thinking.
The D-Day film where
Yeah,
with
I can't think of the name now.
yeah anyway, yeah, but he's coming off on a balloon. Saving Private Ryan is his
Right,
last
right.
coming off that, and so he could do, and so but to make that kind of comment, but that's a good point with a balloon and like what are you doing to the another image that kind of reminds me of, though, when you think about it, it's that the image of people like the Martians in the not the Martian Chronicles, the Not Invaders from Mars, War of the Worlds that
One of the
Steven
ones.
Spielberg did in 2005. They're kind of using a similar device with there's kind of a device where there's like people in cages and they're reaching down and trying to grab people. But yeah, so but certain images I think harken, there's certain images that really connect from Spielberg film to the next Spielberg film, and that one got me. One quote too, and then we'll get. I know you want to get to the ending of the film. And every time this is a quote. Now this was on an interesting podcast from a couple of professors in UConn have a podcast, and they were looking at this film, and they were talking about the scene at the beginning where Dr. Hobby is talking to his workers. And they point out, and Dr. Hobby's discussing what, what Dr. Hobby's discussing the purpose of David and what he can do and the powers that he has. And hang on. But they point out, and Dr. Hobby points out, I'm making a creature that whose complete desire immediately raises a question. Dr. Hobby says, I'm making a mecha that is going to you can imprint and will love you so much that hopefully it'll fulfill that void in your life, and you won't miss, and you'll have the love of a child. The feeling that so an android who's capable of loving, actually expressing love and feeling love, the love of a child for a parent. And so one of the technicians says, why couldn't it be the other way? Rather than creating an AI who can feel love as a child to a parent, shouldn't it be the other way, that we're trying to create AIs who human beings feel love for as if they were a child?
Yeah.
Kind of an interesting twist there. Would have maybe been a better mecha, but that's way less narcissistic than like you mentioned. God created Adam, and Adam was meant to love. But instead there was an end, and I can remember that. I'm not sure she expressed it exactly that way, but you can remember the one of all the 20 people in that room, the one kind of contrarian said, "Why don't we make an AI instead of an AI who could feel love as a child for a parent? Make an AI that making an AI so that human beings feel love for this being as if they were a parent." Kind of an interest, and then it wouldn't be so unidirectional of just the one imprinting from the one person and everybody else is excluded. But that's a whole different movie.
It is a whole different movie, and I think that they should have made a whole different movie.
Well, how about that ending? That is one of the most controversial aspects. It didn't bother me a lot, but there's a lot of what does it mean? What does it signify? Did you feel that David dies at the end? Or is he going to wake up? It's the first time we see him close his eyes, go to sleep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that they intended for him to die there, but for whatever meaning that has.
God, the film was so you were so close to it at that point. The funny thing, the funny thing was, I liked the film a lot. I would give it like 3 stars out of, like Ebert did in the first place.
Yeah.
But the ending really did not. I will say, I was not just. I was so creeped out at the end that I was not drawn to tears. There were people in the audience that wept. And
that's what I heard.
I
didn't shed a tear through this whole thing, and it's because I really didn't buy the premise, I guess. And while it was acted well enough, it creeped me out more than it caused any sentimentality. This is someone who is obviously not real. This is someone who is doing everything in his power to force his love on someone else, to the point to where he brings them back from death so he can have them for a day and have, exactly his way. Now, in the book, I understand that the mother was an alcoholic, and in the resurrection scene, he makes Bloody Marys for her. but so
That's right. That's exactly right.
but
Yeah,
yeah, I didn't really feel for him the way that I think that they expected us to feel for him. I thought what he had was a very selfish kind of love, and
yeah.
he was manipulating everybody else around him, and that doesn't gel well with me.
I think I was a little more. I think I had a lot of that. The end, I was not gripped at the end. Or, in fact, is from teaching psychology, TV, and Freud. Freud that's a Freudian slip. Psychology of TV and Freud. I teach psychology of TV and film, where there's plenty of Freudian stuff. That whole scene, you'd already had plenty of Freudian stuff by then,
Yeah.
and finally at the end is like, whoa, we're just going to turn it up to 11. That I really and so it's funny though. I it's more, to me, is more an effective commentary on what have we become as a society. Who are we? Look at the different classes. Look at the people who we push out as other. And we're probably going to do this with mechas, however they turn into whoever they are, as they are becoming real. And a robot will make your coffee in the future. This, to me, this is an interesting meditation on
Yeah.
how we will be and who we are now. And are we going to get any better? And I doubt it. I don't think we're already.
I think our next move in evolution is in Wall-E. You remember Wall-E, where
Right.
everybody is sent off world into a cruise ship, and they don't have arms and legs anymore because they don't need them. They're weighted on hand and
Exactly.
foot by.
That's and the mechas are the better people in there. The mechs,
Yeah, they are.
they're the
I
best.
think really the way that this film should have gone, and if I were writing the film, which I'm no writer, I would have established perhaps David at the beginning, and then he has to be taken off to the robot factory and be destroyed.
Right.
And then the rest of the film is how the family is able to start over after this.
Oh,
Is
that's an interesting
the
idea.
guilt of the
Yeah.
mother, the
Oh,
relationship then with her real child, who has felt like that he was um, replaced,
right.
and that doesn't go
Speaking of,
away with just getting rid of that.
like
And
David, though,
so,
he was replaced. Yeah, that's
right,
exactly right. Yeah.
the
What did
tension of the marriage, which is still there,
Oh,
despite the fact that some of the things that caused it have relieved themselves. There's still a real screwed up family here, and that would have
yeah.
been an interesting film.
That's a great point. Now, there's a lot of times, yeah, I will see films that are interested. I will say this: some of the Star Wars sequels were like that.
Yeah,
It's like you're looking at a platter of some really interesting elements, food elements, and how you can put them together to make a more interesting film.
yeah,
There are films that hit, and you think about films like that. One thing that tied to 2001 that's interesting, I think it was, and I heard this, I thought, on a podcast, but it's like the super mechas create. Uh, it's like at the end of 2001, where the hotel room is created, for the astronaut,
yeah,
and in this case, it's like they create the entire home for David, and then of course, and he's looking for his mom, but then of course, she's not there until the teddy bear has the lock of hair that he's been explicitly, okay. Number six, logic,
yeah.
the affirmative logic. Number six. How is this damn teddy bear holding on to this lock of hair for the entire film? And it just, again, it's in the script.
You could almost make another film just about the teddy bear. He was supposed to be in the book. I understand he was there too as someone who was able to help David understand about the world.
Ah, interesting. In the book,
They suggested only here.
yeah, he kind of does that in the. I love the character. He kind of does
Yeah.
that, but I lost track of his voice. The voice actor was really good.
Yes. I
They
have a name
worked.
here. Hang on. That was gosh. Um
While you're looking, I know they used Chris Rock as the voice of one of the machine that whose
yes.
head goes through the. Yeah.
Right, right. You could recognize his voice. He was great at that. Gosh. I had it here. Oh, I know why he's not in the main cast.
Right.
They
He should
list
be.
99 plus people in this cast, and
Ah,
yeah, he should be. Um, Here we go. Um,
he's a little Hal like in a way. He's just it's much darker than you'd
yeah,
expect from a teddy
yeah,
bear. Yeah.
and
I kind of like him as much as David in a way. I love the
well,
way the
oh
way
yeah,
he would the way he got free from that. Oh, look, it's a
Jack
teddy bear. Was
Jack
that
Angel. Jack
Jack
Angel
Angel?
is the name of that.
When the
Jack,
woman at the circus finds him, oh, look, it's a teddy bear, and he goes, roar, or something. I
yeah,
can't remember what he does. He knew he did not need this woman to be holding him, and he creeps her out instantly.
he was
So that-
also a voice actor in The Iron Giant and in
oh,
Treasure Planet. He was the second police robot. So he is basically just a voice actor,
a good
just a
voice
voice actor.
actor.
He's a good voice
Yeah,
actor.
yeah, that's well. One thing that, and again, yeah, does this movie add up to the sum of its parts?
And
Did
who
the
was the
part
narrator? I'm thinking it was Ben Kingsley that was the narrator, but he's not
either that
credited
or
as such.
Jeremy Irons, maybe?
Was he
Could have
even
been.
in this?
Just as the voice, just as the narrator voice, maybe. Or it's
I don't
Ben
have him.
Kingsley.
I don't have him listed here. Ben Kingsley is here. They
Oh, then
say
that would be him. That's got to
they
be
just
his
say
voice.
specialist voice, and I'm thinking you get an actor as big as Ben Kingsley, and you give him a practically uncredited role. I mean, really?
The narrator, yeah, that's that's and it's funny. We see that we hear the narrator's voice at the beginning, and then 2 hours later, that then you hear him again, and it's 2,000 years later when they.
Yeah,
Oh, and one effect we did not mention that they actually brought in ice for the ship. I mean, for that entire scene of that kind of omnicopter or whatever that is,
yeah.
ornithopter that's frozen. They would actually bring in blocks of ice and that every day, and they wanted
Gee,
that to be, yeah, for the frozen set and the ferry and everything. That was, yeah, and then and that's another. So there's the whole thing with Pinocchio. I get it, but that didn't to me. I like
yeah,
in looking at the parts coming to a whole that I feel like is a really interesting whole, kind of like the way 2001 is. You
yeah.
meditate on certain things. As a full blown entertaining movie where you're just an end that just grabs you, no, that is not this film. But as looking at different parts and making you think, this film has some
I
of
think if you take the elements of this movie and make your own idea what it's about, it works. But otherwise, by itself, it's a mishmash. It's just let's do this over here and let's do this over here and let's do this over here and put it all together and make it 3 hours long. And
I hear you.
take some
I
big
do
names, put some big names and put them in the extras. Don't give
I
Robin
hear
Williams
you.
any jokes and make you
Speaking,
wish that Jude Law was the lead in this.
right, and well, and apparently they added one. I meant to say they added another jawline for him. They
Yeah.
talked about all sorts of ways to make him look robotic, and they just ended up adding this kind of an extra. And man, it was so subtle, I did not notice it
They
till the
had
scene in
hair
the
gel
makeup.
too that made it look rather
Exactly.
plastic.
Yeah, really effective. But one thing that there were certain parts where, and John Williams did the music, but this is not a John Williams
No.
movie that you're going to end up humming the music to at all. It's it's more it's definitely John Williams doing Stanley Kubrick as
He
far
did
as
the incidental music, but some of the specific music like they did in Rouge City was stuff that Kubrick had found, punk stuff.
nice.
And like when they're going into what is the deal with the tram that goes into the woman's mouth? Uh, I don't even get that.
I mean, yeah, that was that. So again, like you put, I'm gonna, there are some visual things that just don't add up. It's there for the sake of being there, and that kind of there were some things in Rouge City that were, I get it. It's there's exploitation going on that would be the perfect place for Gigolo Joe, but it's yeah. if you're looking to cut some time from the film, that's where that's where I would cut it. But
So yeah, I'm thinking that it's time to find your Pink Floyd record and just put it on, turn the audio off on the movie, and you would enjoy it with whatever recreational consumable that you have.
or or the soundtrack to 2001, which I like
Maybe, yeah,
in the parts of 2001 where it's just the voices, the creepy sounds in 2001, just those like the choir, almost like a male choir.
yeah, yeah,
It
yeah,
felt like this film had. There were a couple of parts I thought, wow, that music sure feels like that. But
yeah.
just an interesting, interesting film. And may I again, I think there's a documentary waiting to be made about the whole thing, Stanley Kubrick and to his projects leading up to working with Spielberg. And
I think it would
yeah,
make an interesting book to take all of his films and figure out what the commonality is. I think I know what it is, but I think that would be, an interesting little bit of infection that goes through all of his films.
of Kubrick or Spielberg.
Kubrick.
Kubrick, right?
Yeah, I don't know that this is a traditional Spielberg film. I think
No,
what he was trying to do was to do an homage, and as far as that went, I think he did pretty well with it. I think I did as well as he could with what he had, because I think his part of the story was really well told, but including Kubrick's elements in the beginning and the end, I think is what hurt it. So
they're
that's my opinion on that, and I'm
a
certain
good
that
point.
Spielberg's idea was that he had this. I mean, he was. I don't know if he was ever influenced so much by Kubrick, but certainly had great respect for him, and that shows in this.
It does. It does. That's exactly right. And the and God, that's especially since Kubrick died apparently all of a sudden.
Yeah,
That he had projects in mind, and it just kind of caught up with him at some point. And it's yeah, I'm glad they did this film. It's good he got his last two films, Eyes Wide Shut and this film out, before he passed away. It makes you wonder what other projects he had in mind. I know he had a lot. He
he had
would
a dozen. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And I wonder, well, that's more research. Were any of them turned
Well,
into
an article that you shared with me talked about other things that he was working on, and I found that fascinating.
that was an
How many
interesting
different
article.
ideas that he was working on that never found the
Yeah.
screen.
And I love, yeah, and that article, yeah, good article. It had the woman, one of the I think was working with. He used so many different writers to try and flesh this film, flesh the idea out. And you're right, they had the Bloody Marys, and then I think he axed that idea. She thought it was a great idea, but I think he axed. I think that would have been an interesting idea at the end.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but a different film.
Yes, a very different film, and I hope never see another one like it. I don't think we will. I don't think we will. But
You
no.
got it.
But I think that we are more in agreement than I'm pretending that I would probably give this film 3 stars as well. It has some serious flaws in it, but it's still a good eye candy,
Yeah,
and I loved how they were able to make part of the story, especially the middle part of the film was my favorite on that. So,
mine too. Mine too. And it makes
if you
you think.
don't have 3 hours to watch the film, just go 30 minutes in and watch an hour's worth of it, and you'll be fine.
Yeah, the craziest thing, the parts that why is it that the parts like yeah, the flesh circus, just even the name of it, the flesh circus, that part, David creeped me out more than the flesh circus. I went back and watched some of that again, like
Yeah.
whoa, that was
Maybe that says more about us than it does about them.
yeah, good point. That's
Well,
why we do this thing.
I think we better quit while we're behind here.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Thank you for joining us. We'll be back next week with another film, a different one than this one. And until then, don't go far.